Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, we're back out at Giga-Texas. It's Friday, the 16th of February, 2024, and there's a lot to see today. And here's a few things that I noticed today that are of interest. Now, we start off on the west side, and we take a look at the end-of-line facility. There's a lot more asphalt that's being done on the north end, and they're reworking the asphalt that they had laid down previously on the east side. On the south end of the end-of-line facility, more work on the supercharger installation, and nearby we see additional conduit work being installed, some of it on the east side and some of it on the south side. Now we go over to the new outbound lot, and we see that this is very active. In fact, this is the only operational outbound lot now, as they've reconfigured the original one, the temporary one that they had on the east side, as more parking. As you can see by this image, they've had the lines replaced and reworked, so we'll start seeing more of the employees parking in the lot. Now, while I was on the west side, I was fortunate enough to see this delivery. Very large items. They are wrapped in plastic and they are marked TKS. This is part of the TKS modular paint system that we've been seeing more and more of the items being delivered and stored on the west side here until they have a chance to install them in the factory. Now, while we're on the west side, I take a trip to the extreme far west just to show you some of the excavation work on a portion of the land that Tesla has. This used to be part of the sand and gravel mine. They're using this dirt to replace and change the grade in a lot of different places around the site. So a lot of activity on the west. Now, moving back over to the main site on the south end, we see that assembly work of the steel extension is continuing, and it is growing not only from the east to the west, but throughout the entire middle section. Now, one thing that is very interesting, as you can tell by this image, on the southwest corner, the way the steel is being assembled, it looks like there's some sort of an atrium, a large open section right on this corner. So I don't know if this is going to be another entrance or some other purpose, but it is different than the rest of the structure. So I found that very interesting. We go up to the Megapack site. Today is a big day because I have verified that all of the disconnects and the various levers that need to be connected are. That includes the double-ended swivel type disconnects on the north end. In the middle, some of the connections that I've had some viewers comment that I should look for. Those are in fact connected. And on the south end, all of those levers that we've been watching are also connected. So the Megapack site is now operational. It's supporting Giga-Texas, and it has the ability to support the grid around the area. Now, another thing that I did notice that I wanted to show you is on the extreme far northeast side. This is that field that has had some work for possible some construction in the future, but it's also being used for a lot of materials. And as you can tell, it is full of materials. And with this close-in shot, I see that there are some new items, some of these red items and some of the white platforms that are associated with assembly lines. And this is continuing to be restocked and have a material stored here. And eventually this is going to be moved into the factory. Who knows, this might be part of that next generation line. The last thing that I want to talk about in the intro is the number of Cybertrucks that I've seen on the site. It is quite impressive. On the southwest corner of the factory, in that temporary staging location, we see about 30 Cybertrucks being stored. In addition to that, on the east side at the testing and calibration lot, we see another approximately 30 Cybertrucks that just exited the factory, are being stored here, getting ready the superchargers and the final checkouts until they move over to the outbound lot. And of course, at the outbound lot itself, I saw another probably 24 intermixed within the Model Ys around the entire outbound lot on the west side too. So the Cybertruck production has definitely picked up a slightly different gear, and I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but it is definitely much more than we've seen. So otherwise, wide-ranging flight today, a lot more to see in the video. So let's get into the video. Let's fly around and see what is going on here on this Friday. Thank you very much for your support. Take care.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, it's a beautiful day to fly, nice lighting today with the clouds, and there is so much to see. We're going to be taking a trip all over the site today, so I hope that you enjoy what we're able to see. Now, one of the things that I want to start with here is the south end, just to give you a good view of the extension, how it looks today. All of those very large glass panes that are being installed that will ring the entire south end, and of course those 4 large tanks that are being assembled, and we'll get a closer view of that. One of the things I do want to show you is here in the tree line, you can see the dirt road that is becoming much more pronounced. And as I look back towards River Road, you can see that this is where it will eventually be paved and connect on River Road on the south end, and then work its way between the ponds through the trees here to this new intersection that is being constructed. And as I pull away a little farther, the road or the dirt ends at this particular point, but eventually it's going to extend all the way around to the north. As I reposition the drone, you get a good view of where this intersection is going to have a connection to the extension of Robotic Avenue. You can see that right in the middle of the screen being prepared now with 2 lanes on either side and a median, and you can see where it will connect into Robotic Avenue in the upper center of the screen. So a lot more road work is being prepared on this part of the site. As we turn back towards the multi-level parking garage, we can get a sense of the construction progress. Some of the materials here at the bottom left of the screen, the entire structure of the parking lot is continuing to grow towards the east and the north, and all of the materials that are stored here waiting for more assembly. Now, one of the things that did catch my eye here, and I'll briefly zoom in, is the number of Cybertrucks that have been driven over and are going through their testing and checkouts here in this lot before they head over to the outbound lot. Also, just a lot of activity with Model Ys as well. So production of both is really humming along here now. And as I zoom in, this gives you a good close-in view of all of these Cybertrucks in the middle, all lined up, just waiting for their chance to go to the outbound lot. So anyway, wanted to take this opportunity while I was flying here to see that. We'll come back and revisit this at a closer altitude a little later in the video. But returning back to the multi-level parking garage is a good view of the progress that is continuing and the work to install more of those concrete columns, the double T-panels, the rebar mesh on the roof, and pouring concrete throughout the entire structure continues. And I had a viewer ask on my previous video whether or not I could tell if other floors had had the concrete poured like we see on the middle and right-hand side roof sections here. And the answer is yes. Actually, all of the floors except for the ground floor now have had concrete poured, at least in portions of them, very similar to what we see here on the roof structure. On the bottom right is where they're putting more of that rebar mesh, and it looks like they're preparing for another very large concrete pour on this portion of the roof section very soon. As I pivot the drone back around and I'll look down at the ground, this gives you a good view of how this south end of the multi-level parking garage is looking right now. The stairs on the left, and of course the work on the right-hand side with the cranes to continue to extend the structure. I'm want to take a look at this opening in the roof section. A lot of work has been done on the curbs around the opening and preparing the roof for the vents that will be installed. But I'm going to take advantage also of the lighting to give you a really good look down inside and see the work that is underway. Here are 4 of the Evapco chiller units on the left, and then the manifolds, those 3 yellow tanks in the middle, and then 6 of these Evapco chiller units, actually 8 of them on this particular side. So a lot of activity still on the inside to get it all prepared. It looks like there's some sort of a walkway on top as well, maybe made out of wood, and soon we'll see those ventilation ducts installed, and those are currently being stored on that west side. As we come up over this edge of the roof, I'll look down and give you a good view of the continued assembly of the 4 tanks. You can see the sections on the left that are the tops of the tanks getting prepared for installation. There's still welding going on as they're finishing up the wall construction. Of course, the platforms on the inside and a good view down to the bottom of the tanks. Now, these are extremely large, and I'm not sure 100%, but they may be related to a painting system, that TKS painting system that we'll see a little later here in the video. As I look down at this portion of the perimeter grade beam, you can get a good look at the work that is now continuing on this angled corner and that section that's going to extend over to the main building itself. A lot of the roof decking has been installed on at least half of the structure, and more is continuing. And then down at the bottom here, more of the work on these pretty large footings that continues to be underway, and it looks like they're preparing for the rebar cages and concrete very soon. Now, in this middle section between the steel structure on the left and the original exterior wall on the right, we see more steel items delivered, more of the work on the footings and those kind of ties between each of the footings next to this portion of the building. Deliveries of steel items continue. In this case, we're seeing some of the beams that have the projections for potentially for some of those large glass panes. We also see how the structure on the right is continuing, and that rapidly diminishing narrow band between the steel structure on the left and the right as they continue to fill in with the steel items. As I reposition the drone back here on the new southeast corner, we get a good sense of more of those large glass panes being delivered on those trailers and in those wooden crates. And this entire south end is being prepared for an enormous section of glass that's going to be installed here. And I'm still doing some research on the glass panes themselves as far as their exact size and weight, and I'll report on that a little later, but I think you'll be amazed at just how large and heavy each of those panes are. More materials being delivered here on this side of the perimeter grade beam. We see more of the steel has been installed on the structure. And if you look closely here, there's a trapezoidal open section right in the middle where that perimeter grade beam is also open. And we talked about in the intro, but it looks like this may be being prepared as, I don't know if it'll be another entrance for the building or some other purpose, but a very large and different kind of opening being prepared in this part of the building. More steel on the ground next to the perimeter grade beam. We see some more of the footing cages on the left being prepared, and then more here on the southwest corner. And this is a good view of how this portion of the work is progressing, getting ready for the steel to be assembled. As we approach in towards this portion of the building, we see some activity on the temporary platforms on the right. And then on the left, we see about 30 Cybertrucks all arranged here next to these trailers that have been recently delivered. One of the Cybertrucks has the front hood open, and the other one has the tailgate open here on the left. And then just past these trailers, we can see another about 27 Cybertrucks with the new vehicle sticker on the dashboard, and these look like they are just temporarily stored here, and then they'll be moved over to the east calibration and testing lot before they go over to the outbound lot. As we continue to the north, I'll reposition the drone to show you the progress on these receiving doors. The 6 on the left are new. They removed the temporary wall panel blanks, and then the 3 on the right are being reconfigured, but a lot of it is just for the load leveling system. That would be the threshold for each of those receiving doors. So that work is continuing to progress right now. The main entrance and all of the glass here, I thought the lighting was excellent, so I want to give you a good view of how this is appearing today. It looks like most of the construction right now on this is completed, and we can see those 3 parallel lines that tend to match up with the crosswalk across the road. So maybe that was the design that they are trying to go for. And then we see that large spool with that orange kind of flexible conduit, and that's also where the end of line is for the Model Ys and where they exit the factory once they are completed with their manufacturing, and then they begin the process to head to the outbound lot for shipping. You'll note that the east side asphalt that was recently laid is now having some of it removed, and they've added some more on the north end here. And then the accordion truck is unloading some interesting items today. It looks like it's equipment that'll be necessary for the operation of the end of line. And that is great to see that they are fitting out the interior. And then here where the glass will eventually be installed, this gives you a quick look at what that section of the end-of-line facility looks like. The sidewalk looks like most of it has been poured, and the crews are removing some of the forms next to the curbs. This is a good view of this dirt section of what will be the extension of the outbound lot, and of course the trenching that is being installed for eventually having the lighting here. Now all of this will be paved, and it will greatly expand the outbound lot's size. Now on the west side of the end of line, we see where some of the heating, ventilation, and other equipment has been installed, some of the ducting, what looks like a air compressing tank, and some additional items all getting prepared here for eventual paving and or possibly some concrete on this side as well. But more of the belly dump trucks are bringing in dirt to finish up the grade. The supercharger installation here on the south end continues to have the wiring completed. It looks like some of the manhole covers have been added now, which is possibly a great sign. More trenching on the left and here on the south end, and we can see some of the electrical conduit being added in. It'll be interesting to see what this is meant for. As we continue to proceed towards the south, on the left we see some of the boring tunnel concrete segments. Some additional items have been delivered, and as we cross over this small fence, we can see the support infrastructure for the boring company tunneling operation, the 3 silos for the grout mix that will be used to line the tunnel, and also the belt cassette and the spoils basin with that concrete section all being prepared for the tunneling. Now I'm going to come back here to the south briefly, and then we'll fly back up to take a look at the boring company's Proof Rock 3, but I wanted to show you more of the tunnel segments have been delivered. In fact, more are being delivered right now at the time of the flight. You can see them coming here on the truck. This is what's going to essentially make the liner, the cylindrical part of the tunnel that will be the strength of the tunnel and form what you will see once it's completed. We can see that orange ventilation duct. That will be what will be used to ensure there's ventilation in the boring tunnel while that operation is underway. And then here next to the trailers and the proof rock cutting head at the top of the right of the screen, we can see more work assembling sections of the aft end or the tail end, as I've been told from a viewer that is in the boring company business. We can also see that some of the eyelets on the top of the Proof Rock 3 have been cut off, and more of them will be cut off. That's possibly what some of the crew are doing on the in the pit, but that'll be done just before the boring operation becomes operational, and that should be indicating that we'll see that very soon. Now, interestingly enough, I wanted to come up and take a look at this old contractor triangular parking lot with the trenching for what I think is lighting, but I noticed these very large deliveries coming in today. So I thought I would go ahead and follow those instead. And it looked to me like these were TKS modular paint system items. And as I got closer in, and you'll see where they are delivered, that is in fact what they are. Now, they've been bringing in a lot of items similar to this, and it's, again, part of a modular painting system, very similar to what they installed in the north end of Giga-Texas a few years ago and what is being used for the Model Y painting process. But this is a completely new, very large modular painting system. It'll be self-contained, and it looks like it will be installed on the southern part of the factory. So it'll be completely separate from the existing paint shop as well. And this is a good view of the TKS trailer and some of the other items all packaged in white. And you can see some of the containers for some of the other equipment. And then we can see some of the gray items here as well. But all of this is part of that painting modular system. And again, more deliveries today. So we should be watching to see where and when this is going to be installed. I think it's a critical part of the next generation vehicle production line. So as we continue back towards the end of the line facility, I'll show you the new outbound lot. It is quite active. This one is several times larger than the one that was used on the east side. We can see Cybertrucks intermixed with the Model Ys on the western half. And then on this half, we see trucks actively picking up vehicles, more Cybertrucks intermixed with the Model Ys. You'll notice that the markings start at B13 here. That's because to the south, they are still working on that section. So we'll have B1 through 12 added there on the south end. And then on the north end, where you see all of that construction work, and we talked about previously, that will extend the outbound lot even larger. So this is going to be enormous once it is completed. So I'm going to fly up towards the north. There's some additional details and developments that I want to show you as we follow along the new north-south road. I noticed this new section having earthwork done. It looks like there's an excavator and some of the dump trucks removing some of this that may be extending this material storage location further to the south to give it some additional capacity, but it'll be something to monitor. Now, while we're on this part of the site, I thought I would fly to the far west side. This is still Tesla property. This used to be part of the sand and gravel mining operation. Now it's being used by Tesla to excavate dirt and transport it to other parts of the site to help level out, raise, and improve the grade for different parts of the construction site. And this is just a quick look at how this portion of the site that we rarely see looks today. And again, the hills and the valleys that you see here kind of in a linear fashion is representative of the sand and gravel mining that used to take place in this entire portion of the land here on the east side of Austin that Tesla purchased. Now we're going to fly over the intersection here of Farm to Market 973 and Tesla Road. And this is the road that goes across the north part of the main factory and is eventually and is right now in the process of being extended over to the battery cathode plant and die shop. Here's a good view of more of the steel items being stored here on this particular lot and the intersection that's still under construction for that north-south road that'll extend down to the new end-of-line facility. So while we're here on the north end, I'm going to reposition the drone across, looking across the highway, and I want to show you this section of Giga-Texas's site that, again, we don't normally see too often. This is where landscaping materials, some of the plants, and the irrigation system pipes, those are those purple pipes that you see, have been stored. in addition to some trailers with equipment. Now, this used to be on the west side, but it was relocated here maybe about 6 to 8 months ago so that they could have additional space on the west side. The batch plant that we just passed is the temporary batch plant that has been here for over 3 years now and has been responsible for most of the concrete that has constructed Giga-Texas. As we fly up over the new electrical switch yard and the power lines, I want to show you a good close-in view of the Megapack site. And as we talked about in the intro, this is a big day. This is the first time that it has been fully connected to the grid and also to the factory. And you'll be able to note on the left, those swing type disconnects are now connected. Next to this large transformer, we see those 3 devices. Those are disconnects as well. Those are connected, and it's kind of in the middle of the screen. And as I continue to move the drone back towards the south, I'll show you the other disconnects. They're kind of mechanical lever type disconnects here on this portion of the site, and all of them are now pointing up. They've used to be all pointing down, and this is a good view in so you can see them right in the middle of the screen. So this indicates that the Megapack system is fully engaged and connected to the grid. And as we've talked about before, the Megapacks serve 2 primary functions. The first is a backup source of power for the factory, and the second is to help to stabilize the grid in the greater Austin area. And people keep asking, are the solar panels on the roof of Giga-Texas connected to the Megapacks? And the answer is no. The solar panels are used to help offset electrical needs as the sun provides electrical power. And I got that directly from Tesla employees that are responsible for the entire electrical system here at Giga-Texas. So I think that's pretty safe to say that that's authoritative information. Now here, the temporary electrical switch yard continues to see its disassembly. The perimeter fence has been mostly removed. We can see the fence posts with the concrete bases laying next to those 3 control towers. We still have that 1 steel pole waiting for disassembly and just a few other electrical items, but the disassembly here is really picking up speed, and I would not be surprised by the end of next week that this entire site is gone. As I've mentioned before, but people keep asking, no, this does not belong to Tesla. It's part of LCRA, which is the Lower Colorado River Authority. They own the equipment, and they will decide what is done with all of that items once they have completed the disassembly. So now on the north end of the factory, I'm going to reposition over towards the 4680 battery cell production section. And let's take a look at some of the activity here. We see in the dumpster what looks to be discarded headliners for the Model Y being thrown away. That's probably from the plastic shop, which is just to the left of the screen. We see more of the work here doing the internal assembly and preparation to extend the production lines. We also see those commercial elevator systems now operational next to those platforms. Many Cybertruck castings on the north end of the paint shop today. Some of them are fronts, some of them are rear castings. We don't see them here next to where these white trucks are. Those have been cleaned out, but we do see some of the rack mounts and many more lined up on the northeast corner. The concrete apron widening that is continuing here looks like a large section of the concrete has been poured and is now cured. The laser screeds, which is what is laying down the concrete, are being prepared for movement over to finish up the dirt section on the left. And we see a lot more of the items for internal assembly and finishing of the furnaces on the ground. This is a good view of the saw cutting that is going on of the apron here next to the wall. Again, I mentioned this in my previous video, but it's possible that they've decided that with internal assembly of furnaces and different equipment, perhaps they're going to prepare this section and include new receiving doors for access inside, but that'll be something we'll have to monitor and to see what they actually do. We do see a lot more of the Cybertruck castings on the ground here, and we also see work going on next to the wall with all of those spools of wires. This is again where the electrical conduit and wiring that goes up to the Megapacks enters into the building. Next to these receiving doors and that apron that still needs concrete, we see a lot of the Cybertruck castings all around this entire area, all being laid out and basically being stored until they are needed. So I think that's another great sign for production for the Cybertrucks as far as the quantity of the castings. As I bring the drone down here, I mentioned earlier I'll give you a closer in view, but you can get a good sense of the number of Cybertrucks that are here. Between the earlier view and now, some of them have already been driven over to the outbound lot on the west side, and more, as you see driving around, are arriving freshly leaving the factory for the first time. But as I maneuver the drone around here, this gives you a good view of the number of Cybertrucks and also the number of Model Ys, which I think both of the production lines are ramping up noticeably, and I think that would be great for Tesla, knowing that both the Model Ys and the Cybertrucks are ramping up as well as they are. So here's a few more views of the testing and calibration lot. The old outbound lot has had the surface redone, and they've added all of the parking lines, and what you can see here answers that question definitively. This is to allow more parking for employees and to help alleviate this overflow lot, which as you can see is very full. And of course Tesla continues to hire employees, so this becomes a priority to help with the parking. We see some more work here on the preparation to extend Tesla Road throughout this entire section all the way to the east and branching off to connect to the die shop and the battery cathode plant on the left. So really good views here of that work to extend Tesla Road. As we fly along the west side of the die shop, we can see that the ponded water has been removed and they're doing more preparation, possibly for asphalt. The west side here is still busy and has a lot of equipment and cars, but I think they want to get this paved as well soon. We do see some trench work on the northeast corner of the die shop here, and of course work on the chiller plant continues to get that fully operational, and it's very close to being so. Some additional concrete work being done on that apron as well. As we come up over the building and take a look at the east side of the cathode plant, we see more asphalt, more geotextile membranes being placed, and that will be covered with dirt, and then they'll fill that with asphalt again. The structure here on the south end of the crash test facility hasn't had much change in the last couple of videos. We'll continue to monitor that. I know a lot of people have theories about what that is for, but I cannot say for sure at this point in time. Good view of more of the asphalt being laid here on the north end and the east side of the battery cathode plant. The wade pit still has some water in it just from rains, but not from use. And the cell test lab, that small steel structure on the left, is busy as well. I did notice that there was this accordion truck bringing in some electronic equipment. This looks like probably associated with electrical systems, and I'm not sure exactly where that's going to be installed, but it's interesting that that is being delivered. And of course now we see more concrete and asphalt to finish up this section of the western part of the battery cathode plant and near that lift station with that white van. So that's a pretty wide-ranging view of Giga-Texas today. I'm going to continue to fly up to the far northeast. And if you look to the right, you'll see a large field with a lot of equipment, and that's possibly for the next generation vehicle production line. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your support. Have a great weekend.